So good morning or good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome again to this wonderful session of our coffee talks. This time we are in the United Kingdom and we have some wonderful youth. And our special guest, our editor from the Heartfulness Magazine is here. But let me not ramble. My name is Alka Patel, based here in London. As you can see, my background, it's sunny, it's summer, yay. And it's really a good time to be here. So do come along. Youth, who do we have?
Sure, yeah.
Hello.
Hi, yes, my name is Mahsa. I'm from the UK too, and we're having a bit of sun here. Nice. I've been practicing heartfulness for many years now, and I do volunteer at Heartfulness wherever possible. And I would like to pass it to the next participant.
Hello, my name is Andy. I'm based near Belfast in Northern Ireland, and I've been practicing heartfulness for about 2.5 years now. And I would like to pass it to Elizabeth, please.
Hi everyone, my name's Elizabeth. I feel like a veteran compared to you guys, age-wise, how many years I've practiced. I'm Australian. I'm back in Kanna, Shantivanam after 18 months back in Australia during the COVID lockdown. So I've just got back here and I'm adjusting to the heat and the fact that there's a big meditation event coming up on 30th of April. And so people are starting to pour in from all over the world right now. So it's very exciting.
Absolutely jealous, Elizabeth. I wish I could be with you, but anyhow, it's not about me, as you guys know. Martha, could you please put today's article up? Again, a fantastic one.
Sure.
I love these youth, Elizabeth. They can really choose these articles from the magazine. So, yes, it's our Daji's article. If we could have slide 1. Okay, and if you would like to make it a bigger screen, it's up to you. But yes, it's the planet, as you know, as this article, says, the planet was here before us, and it will be here after us. And Daji talks about in slide 2, Martha, he says that he explains how caring for Mother Earth begins with eliminating thought pollution from the mind and nurturing the attitudes of love and reverence. When love and reverence are there, now, does that say we? Will we intentionally hurt anyone or anything, especially our Mother Earth? Wow, too many eyes, but we don't like eyes, do we, in Heartfulness? Let's move on to slide 3. Who resonated with this one?
Yeah, it's me. And it's saying where to begin. As you think of your role in taking care of Mother Earth, begin from the heart. Let the goodness you create within become dynamic in your actions outside. Don't underestimate the impact of your actions because big change comes from small steps. And as Daji said in the article, Mother Care is taking a good care of us. So we can start with doing small steps to be a better child for the Mother Earth.
Is there anything in particular you resonated with, the small steps? Is there anything you've been doing?
Yeah, especially starting from the heart. And yeah, that's what I think it would be a good start for me.
Okay. And Andy?
Yeah, what I would like to add to that is that whenever we think of making big changes in life, we often think we have to do big things in order to bring that about. But I would say that everything big is just made out of little small things that are very achievable.
Interesting.
And would Elizabeth like to add anything?
I want to share a story with you because I think this story sort of talks about how the heart does this. So we were in New Zealand for a seminar, and it was a heartfulness seminar. It was back in 2004. So it was the guide before Daji who was there at the time. And it was cold and it was miserable and it was raining. And we were in Auckland and we were walking. We were all staying in this sort of resort area that had a conference center. So it was time for group meditation. And we were all coming out of our little, our little cottages and walking towards this conference room that we were using as a meditation hall. And so I was walking with Charaji, the guide at that time, and one of the boys in front of us, because there was a branch hanging over the pathway that we were walking on, and because it was raining, the branch was very heavy with water. And so this guy went to lift it out of Charaji's way so that, because he was a tall man, to move it out of the way so that Charaji could get past without getting wet. And Charaji stopped him and said, "Leave our sister alone. It's okay. I'll walk around." And so he stopped this guy from sort of pushing the branch out of the way. And it was just a very, very small gesture, right? But it showed so much respect because, for a start, he acknowledged the tree as our sister. And secondly, he didn't want to disturb the tree. He was happy to go around. And he pointed out to this guy basically that we've just got to be more aware and more sensitive to the beings around us. Now, can you imagine if you're that sensitive to the beings around you? Will you naturally want to cut one? Will you want to cut their limbs off or dig them up or whatever without care? Not at all. Same with animal species. It's just about having that awareness of the connectedness and of the living being and everything. So it was a really nice little lesson and about as small as you could get, but it had a big impact.
I agree with you, Elizabeth. That reminds me when Daji, the global trainer now for Heartfulness, when he came to our Denmark ashram, and he was walking. We just had a beautiful meditation, and I happened to be able to walk next to him, and I was ranting about something. I can't even remember, to be fair, but he stopped me and he goes, "Wait, look, can you just walk around?" There was a little trail of ants. So he wasn't even listening. He was in that now moment. And that's the time when I went, wow, that was what we need to inspire to, guys. So should we have the next slide? But yeah, thank you, Elizabeth. God, it just makes you realise. So
this one was mine.
Right.
Mine, yeah. So stick to short showers and turn off the lights when not needed. So our shower didn't work for a number of years, and we recently got it fixed, I think a month or two ago. And so what I've been trying to do is get washed in as short a time as possible in order to align with this quote. So I've got it down to, if I wash my hair in the basin in the sink, and then I can have a shower and be out of the shower in 2.5 minutes. So I've just been doing that. That's kind of like my small step to saving electricity.
And water.
Yeah, electricity and water, yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, ideally, back in the days when there wasn't any showers, we'd be washing outside. So that's where we should be veering to, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know. I've done it in India. India is easy. I don't know. I've tried Denmark. We had to. I think there was issues with the pipe work or something, and it was cold. But let's see where it's going. Martha.
Yes, that's actually really nice if we can do these things. Like for me, whenever I put the kettle on, if I know I only need a cup of water, then I would only add a cup of water, not more. I think it would help if I do it every day, then I'm gonna save on energy. And I think there are so many small things we can start from. And Elizabeth, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I've spent the last 10 years, or before COVID, the last 10 years, primarily based in India. And of course, there are times when we were in Chennai, there are times when the water just ran out because everything was on wells. And, when you get into the summer here, and there's you're waiting for the monsoons to come, you have to be so super careful of water. And also it's extremely hot here in the summertime. So you would only fill your water filter up in the early morning and the evening, because otherwise it's hot water. So you become really conscious and aware of what you're using water for and how much. And, you know, back in Australia also, we had the fire season. We have, you know, I live on a property back there which has tanks, water tanks, and a dam. There's no town water. So everything's dependent on you using and being very, very responsible for what you use. And I think it gives us, what I find is it gives us this sense of the preciousness and the sacredness of our resources. We can't just sort of be, I don't know, unconscious of what we're doing. And I love that. I love the fact that, you know, it makes me aware, it makes me care.
No, absolutely. Everyone thinks, oh, you've got lovely hair. I wash it once a week. There's been times where I've allowed it to not being washed for 2 weeks, because, you know, my mum's taught me this, that we have natural oils, and if we allow the natural oils to stay, then it doesn't get as greasy. And do not use the products, and, you know, all these, I call it the old ways, but they're the best ways, you know. I keep talking to you guys about my mum, you know, who still wears a sari. You know, I listened to her. You know, she was from a very small village in Gujarat, and when she came back into the UK, but she still set in her little simple ways. And wow, I still look at her and I think that's where I want to be. I should be, but this society, this world has spoiled us. I also want to add, I think the article talks about Daji saying about there was a time when the monsoons were late,
Yeah.
and there was enough water. I love that bit, Elizabeth. Do you want to tell us more?
Yeah, I was here at the time. So, you know, the monsoons were late. They normally come here around this first, second week of June, but they hadn't come. And we'd planted so many seedlings around Kana at that stage. And of course, it's very, very hot before the rains do come. You know, it'll get up into the 40s, into the mid 40s. And so you can imagine these poor little plants. So what Daji did was he announced at satsang, he said, everybody who's coming out on Sundays from Hyderabad to do the group meditation. This was pre-COVID, so people could come in those days. He said, when you come, just bring containers of water and go around and find plants around the ashram and just water them. So hundreds of people were doing this. Every time they'd come during the week, or then, you know, the group would come on Sunday, everybody would bring containers full of water and water the plants. And it kept them going till the rains came. Just that simple bit of help.
Absolutely. And goes on to say, don't carry the plastic, have a water beaker. You know, I got one, I carry it with me all the time, just refill it when I need it. But, you know, let's move on. So should we have the next slide? Okay, so guys, I really resonated with this one, and I sort of stole it off you youth. But can I quickly read it and then ask you all to share as well? So the problems of the environment underscore a much deeper problem that's facing humanity, and that's of thought pollution. Now, when I first saw this, just this part, before reading the whole article, my first initial reaction was this whole the mental state of people and depression, and, you know, people go what they've gone through for the last couple of years. But when I went on to read the articles, it was deeper than that. So I'm going to open this up to you, Andy. What do you think about this quote?
I think this really resonates with the idea of the law of attraction and manifestation. So I think it's kind of like all of the emotional trauma that people have had over the year just kind of builds up inside of them, and then it kind of just comes out into the world, like gets externalized, and that's why there's so much pollution in the world, I think.
Yeah, and Larsa, what are you thinking?
Sure. The idea of the thought pollution I think it's really important whenever even we want to take care of our environment. If we just think like, why should I? I need that for my comfort. Why should I do this or not do that to help the environment? And that's, I think, one of the thought pollutions we need to clear. And yes, that's what I like about this quote.
I mean, you know, it's easy to say, right? It's the
Yes.
doing part. It's the doing part. Have you tried anything, Martha?
But for myself, I usually find it easy to be nice to the environment. But I've seen around, for example, my friends, sometimes they're even they're doing something nice for the environment, but with anger, like it's too much they're doing. It's not that smooth in their life. And that's why I keep reminding myself to not do that.
Cleaning on the outer level, but polluting on the inner.
What's that, Andy?
Cleaning on the outer level, but polluting on the inner.
Yeah.
Do you want to explain that a bit more?
I don't really know how to. I mean, it's just like, if you complain about something good that you're doing, it's just like internal pollution, whereas outwardly you're kind of like doing the right thing, but it's not really like, it's not totally conducive to improvement.
Okay, can you give us an example? Sorry, I'm being pushy, but our audience want to hear you, Andy.
Okay. If you're like tidying your room, but you don't actually want to do it, and then you like end up getting into an argument with your mother for doing it later, because she's like pushy towards you.
Absolutely. At the end, you've got to do it, right?
Yeah.
And what was the purpose of that argument?
Well, there is no real purpose. It's just like letting off steam.
I'm going to get you connected to my son. Absolutely. What was the purpose of that argument? You've got to clean it. It's your room, right? Sorry, Andy. I'm picking on you. Oh, bless. Elizabeth, would you like to?
Yeah, well, this is like one of the hugest topics in spirituality. It's just, it's bottomless. So what's thought pollution? If you think about it, it's that our mind becomes turbulent. We get attached to things. We have likes, we have dislikes. In yoga, they form heaviness in our system that we call samskaras. And what happens as a result is that we like certain things. We like our comforts, especially. We like to be able to drive into town rather than walking. We like to be able to eat what we want when we want. And when you look at what yoga does and what heartfulness does, it's saying something very different. It's saying that a true yogi, anyone, even the person that uses the least amount of resources, can live on a fifth of what they currently use. That's the standard for a yogi, right? So if I eat a certain amount every day, I can actually exist on a fifth of that. And so the whole idea is that we're not making a big footprint on the earth. We're reducing our footprint the whole time to the idea that, we don't disturb the atmosphere with emotional outbursts. We don't disturb the atmosphere and the people around us with negative thoughts. So if something happens to me during the day, I'll give you an example. Say someone's really mean to me and does something horrible, says something behind my back or treats me badly or whatever. I have a choice in the reactions that I can have to that. I can either get really resentful and I can bitch about that person to somebody else and say, this happened and isn't this horrible, and create a real turbulence around me in the atmosphere, a very negative sort of response. That's one way of dealing with it. And when I do that, my thought pollution is affecting everything around me, the other people around me, the trees, the water, the plants, the animals, everything gets affected by my reaction. Whereas if that happens and I think instead, okay, maybe that person's got a point, or let me just wait and see how this unfolds. Maybe they're having a bad day or whatever, but I don't have a reaction. I stay calm and loving and keep radiating beautiful thoughts and loving thoughts towards that person and everyone else, what's the difference in the effect I have around me? So it just affects every single level of our being and every level of every other being around us. So you imagine that this is the greatest pollution that we face, thought pollution. And you look at the stats from the neuroscientists, and they say that roughly 47% of the time people have just got mind-wandering negative thoughts. So roughly 47% as a default baseline, people are just churning out random negative thoughts into the atmosphere around them. Imagine if we all changed that and turned it around and regulated our minds and started what we radiate outwards is loving and positive and supportive of everything else around. We would change the earth in just like that in no time.
No, absolutely, Elizabeth. And I know the article at Daji, again, talks about, it'd be great if these changes could happen from the top, but obviously, in the political world, which we won't talk about, but he said, then it goes and say, starts with you as an individual. And whilst you were talking, Elizabeth, I thought about, as you all know, being a teacher, one of the things my colleagues have said to me, and this is just sharing, is, Alka, you're very calm. Your classroom's always calm and quiet. And that's because I always feel that how I vibrate, the children will feel it straight away, because they're little, they're very open to receiving so any outburst or any anger from me. And the children, you can see that. But putting them into that position, I feel they're ready for learning, they're alert, they're feeling calm, they don't feel disturbed. And just sharing that with you, because when you're with your friends or family, I feel that really helps, especially if somebody is going through something. I know some of my work colleagues, outbursts, like you say, anger, but me just sitting there silently, just listening, really helps them to just calm down. And then they realize, well, hang on, what was all that about? Why did I need to do that? I can see that they're thinking that, and the conversation changes. So what I'm saying with everybody is that I felt with me, just learning to listen and just myself being calm has helped those around us. Guys, we have another slide. Shall we bring that on? Martha, you okay?
Yes.
Guess who this is for? That's it, Elizabeth. Could I kindly ask you to come along?
Sure. So if my tone sounds alarmist, it's an alarming time. I don't think anyone would dispute that. I think everybody feels the upheaval, the uncertainty that's going on at the moment. I mean, for a start, if you listen to anything I listen to a lot of podcasts, and now people are talking about the climate change things that are affecting their basic livelihoods, like people who live in the Bayou area in the southern United States, in states like Louisiana, their properties are underwater. They've had to abandon their houses. This sort of thing is happening everywhere. It's not just some sort of theoretical thing that's happening. In Australia, the fires, the floods that have been happening are all climate change related. So if you look at the mass extinction of species, the 6th mass extinction, I mean, the numbers are just horrendous of what's going extinct. And one of the things we're doing in Canna is we're creating a sort of a Noah's Ark of rare and endangered plants and animals. So, it is an alarmist time. How do we respond to that alarming time? It's not a good idea to just panic and go into some sort of crazy lockdown because we can't cope. And there's a lot of eco-anxiety out there at the moment. You'll see that in the upcoming edition that comes out on 1st of May, that there's a wonderful article about how to manage eco-anxiety, because it's a real thing. I mean, people are concerned because their lives are being affected. And when you see bushfires like happened in Australia a couple of years back, you just, or the hurricane, the first big hurricane in the US, Hurricane Katrina, that started this spate of, you know, mega hurricanes, you can say, that the locals had never seen before. You realize that something's different, something's changed on a massive scale. But what to do about it is the thing. Does alarm mean that you just go into panic and shut down or stress mode? That's not going to help, is it? So my question to you young ones is, I mean, I can give you answers, but that's not going to help you. I mean, what is it that you do to look at such an alarming time and say, how do we move forward? If either of you want to talk about that.
Yeah, I can start. I think for me, it's just taking the small steps. And like, for example, I've been liking to have my windows open, but I have a big tree behind the window. So when I open it, the insects would come. And I don't want to use the chemicals to get rid of the insects. So I researched a little bit, and the solution was planting, for example, a little bit of garlic and mint. And in that way, I can just, in a very healthy and friendly way, not having the insects coming to my flat. And I'm trying my best to start with these small steps to help my environment.
I'm not really sure I have an answer for this other than just keep doing my practice as much as I can. And yeah, if any insects enter the house, I used to have a glass in my room that I would put over them and then slide paper underneath and take them out. So yeah, just try not to hurt the environment or animals and insects being a part of that, I think.
Yeah.
Where you live, Andy, have you got a lot of greenery where you live? Are you in the city or?
I can show you here. Hold on. So I'm in my shed at the minute.
Oh,
there's a lot of plants. Yeah, and there's the back garden.
Yeah.
And then I live in that room there on the left.
Okay.
So I guess it's like a town or a city, but there's not really like a lot of wildlife. Just garden bugs and things.
Mm.
The occasional hedgehog or mice. Yeah, it's mostly a like city place.
There's I just want to share with you, last week the educational minister here in the UK announced that there'll be a new, it's called a GCSE. It's like O levels. It's like an attainment, A levels, then you go on to do degree. So the new GCSE is called natural history, and it will be all about climate change, sustainable energy. About time, right, guys? And this is going to be a whole subject in itself. It won't be rolled out, and the first probably exams won't take place till 2025. But I'm so excited because each school nursery will have a lead, and I've opted for it. And just last month, speaking to my class about sustainable energy, and we're talking about how we can replace fossil fuel, you know, all those conversations. And we did an experiment with potatoes, and how potatoes can generate a very small amount of electricity, right? Yeah. But for them to see that, they're like, wow. And then we did lemons. What I'm saying is the change is happening, and it will be with us individuals. But as I'm getting older, and I'm sure I'll put you there, Elizabeth, but it won't probably happen in my time. And it's those young ones and you guys that have really got to start bringing it on. I mean, So my question to you again is, the article is very powerful, and Daji talks about Kana a lot. But what can we say to the rest of the world? What other ideas do you have, Martha?
I think I just go back with starting from the heart and feeling better inside, at least about our environment, would help a lot. I think that would be a nice thing to start from inside.
But Martha, we talk about external environment. What about your internal environment?
Mm-hmm.
Do you see?
Like internal environment within
yourself, yeah.
Yes, starting from the heart, and meditation has been helping me a lot in stressful times, as Elizabeth was saying. Having that from inside, it will reflect actually the outer environment. So I'm trying my best to have that inner peace, and starting from there, hopefully it goes well for me.
I quite like the idea of having like mini kanhas around the world. I think some people are starting to do that, and that's the sort of thing that I would kind of like to do as well, like to join that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's important that we don't just meditate to feel better. You know, why do we meditate? We meditate so that our mind and our hearts we're more functional, more human, more caring human beings. So if it doesn't go out into our actions in terms of what we're doing right now on this topic, then there's not really much point. I mean, it's great for us that we feel good, but one of the reasons why we meditate is so that we can, you know, we can become clearer, we can become more caring, we can become more compassionate, and we can have clarity to come up with solutions. You know, one of the things meditation does is it gives you this capacity of what's called in yoga viveka, which means that you can discern better, you can make wiser decisions, you can listen to your heart, you can feel the wisdom that's coming from there. And I feel, and also you can connect with other people better because heart is connecting. So my feeling is that, you know, what's the change that's needed is all about us all coming together. Like you said, Andy, mini kanas everywhere, or whatever it is we do, but coming together, because when you look at what human beings can achieve, whatever we put our minds and our hearts to, we can do amazing stuff, right? You know, when scientists put their minds and their hearts to atom bombs, they did amazing stuff. Very destructive, but incredible technology. When they put their minds to solar energy, they can do amazing stuff. When we put our minds to destruction and mining and everything, you know, we put it there. But when we put it to solutions for this, to regenerative environmental work, we can also do that. And so the more we meditate, the better we'll be, the more capable we'll be at doing these things. And when we come together, the sum's always bigger than the parts. So, Andy, you might have an idea. And then Masa builds on that. And then Alka builds on that. And then I build on that. And we come up with something much better than any of us would individually. And I think that's the future for me, that unity, that ability to, you know, have clear hearts, listen well, listen to our hearts, and come up with good solutions, because it has to be fast. It has to be even within my lifetime, otherwise we won't survive. It's as simple as that, and we can do it.
No, absolutely. You know, Elizabeth, you were saying earlier to us that you were in Australia throughout the whole COVID. You are now in Ghana. And next week, you know, big celebrations. Here in London, we're opening the London Centre for the first time as well. And just that feeling of everybody coming you know, we're not there yet. This is next week, but just that feeling has created this shift in people's conversations. And you know, the volunteers are all like, yeah, I'll be there Sunday. I mean, there's lots of people meeting with us today just to be at the ashram, to the center, to clean, and just that whole shift. And that goes back to what you were saying, Elizabeth, about we are social beings and this whole community feeling. Now, I don't know where I don't know, Andy, about the centres in Belfast. Could you tell us more? Do you get there?
So I'm not actually sure if there's any trainers in Belfast or Northern Ireland, actually. I've looked up on Hotspots and I found a few in Ireland. And I think there might be a lady who is going to have like a kind of mini Cana in Ireland. I'm not 100% sure of that. But my trainer is actually based in South America. I think it's Bogota in South America. So yeah, I mean, I don't actually know anyone who practices heartfulness that I would like hang around with or meet up with.
Okay,
I do. I know plenty of people in Ireland.
Oh,
I'll
so what
share.
about Northern Ireland?
I'll share with you. Some in Northern Ireland, yes. I'll share with you.
Oh, okay. Right, okay, thank you.
Yeah, we do. But yeah, let kind Elizabeth will do this. And just going back to that, your trainer is in South America. Well, they take a trip to Cana. I remember going to Cana, and everybody from everywhere was there, and it was just like wow. But when you're there, you feel like you're one. You really do feel like you're one. I don't know. For me, that would be my future home as well. Got to work hard there to get there. Martha, tell us a little bit, because I know you're not from the UK. You live in the UK. Do you want to tell the audience a little bit?
Yeah, I'm from Iran. I lived there many years, and then I actually moved to Dubai. I lived there for a few years, and then I moved to the UK. And yeah, sometimes when I talk about it, I'm like the heat in Dubai and other way around in the UK. So I experienced both. And yes, I came to UK and I thought it would be a year or two. I'll go back to Dubai, but no, I'm still here. And I'm very happy we have the center here in London. And whenever I go there for volunteering or when I'm there, yeah, you're absolutely right with the other ones around. I just feel amazing. And it's very nice. And I hope we have one center where Andy is soon that he can enjoy too.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Martha, because I know you started Heartfulness. I'm not sure, was it here or in Dubai?
I was living here, but because I was introduced from my sister and she lives in Dubai. So when I visited her, I had my first practice actually starting there, but I was living in the UK that time around 10 years ago.
Yeah, and did this help with because you did a PhD, is that right?
Yes, I have PhD in engineering and management.
And did the practice help? Can you
a lot?
Okay.
Yes, a lot, because everybody knows the PhD is just like it's 24/7, and sometimes you totally forget about yourself. And yes, meditation helped me a lot in progressing and moving on. Yes, I'm very grateful.
Okay. And Andy, I know you said 2 years you've been doing the practice. Yeah. Would you like to share anything?
Yeah, I mean, I found Heartfulness through Quora by Brian Jones. He was actually the person who introduced me. He used to do a talk show. Well, he still does, actually. He does it now on Zoom, but he did a talk show called Joy in Real Time on Facebook.
Yeah.
And that's where I came across Heartfulness, and that's how I was introduced. So, Brian is a great person.
He's wonderful, yeah.
He came to London, but yeah, going back to you, Andy, because I feel like you're in a remote place, but your will seems to be so strong. You're able to. Are you practicing regularly, or do you find it hard?
So I rarely would miss a meditation or a cleaning or a prayer or anything like that. But I'm kind of going through a strange thing at the minute where I don't have any craving or desire. I just kind of do the practice because I'm used to doing it. And I don't really know why that's happening, but it's kind of hard to practice at the minute, but I just keep going.
Go on, Elizabeth.
It's very normal, Andy, and it's great that you're just practicing anyway, because it's the best way to get through it. It's a very, if you think about, spiritual growth or spiritual progress, it's a very, like a spiral journey. So it's not linear. So you can be going along and, as you go through different phases, when you enter a new phase and it's very exciting and you feel so much and you feel very inspired, etc., it's wonderful. But then what happens is that you become acclimatized to that. It becomes normal and you stop feeling it after a while. And then to move on to the next stage, you've got change, you've got disturbance, you've got a bit of turbulence, moving to the next stage. And so this cyclical thing happens at every new stage, where you'll go through disturbance and then settling and then moving to nothing much happening and then moving to again some disturbance with movement. And it's described very well in one of the books on the chakras called Towards Infinity. But this whole cyclical process is part of the journey. And it also strengthens you, because imagine what it would be like if you just felt blissful and happy all the time, every time you meditated. You'd be stuck. And, when you get this boot to move forward, it takes you out of your comfort zone, and it can be quite unsettling. And then when you become acclimatized and you feel nothing, it's like, well, hold on a second, what's going on? I used to feel such great stuff during meditation. What's happened? Have I lost it? But it's actually a good thing. So congratulations, it's all progress.
Yeah, I was going to say, absolutely. It's happened to all of us. And when that happens to me, I remember the quote, when you don't feel like meditating, that's when you should meditate the most.
Right.
Yeah, okay. Because from what Elizabeth said, it's like you're really pushing yourself forward, backwards, but you're pushing yourself out of that static moment to the next bit, I call it. So yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like it at the time, but it is exciting.
No, it doesn't.
Sorry. Sorry, I say that because I kind of know what's going to happen to you, if that makes sense. You go to the children, yes, it will work, trust me, because you've seen, and the kids are like, but are you guys reading around the subject? Sorry, I've never asked this question, but I felt like I had to ask.
Of heartfulness? Yes, I'm at the minute I'm reading Sahaj Marg Philosophy, I think it's called. And then a book by an Abhyasi called Claire Gormley. I think it's called The Divine Spark.
The Divine Spark, yeah. Good.
And you, Martha, are you reading anything interesting?
I try to actually reread the books I have, and every time I read it, it feels like it's the first time I'm reading it. So yes, it's been nice reading from Heartfulness.
No, absolutely. It's like a movie when you see it again and again. You go, I can remember this bit. I don't know. And I always think, for me, my condition. I always sort of go, oh yeah, your conditions change, and your inner. I don't know. Your inner. I call it the inner sales. And it's a way of introspecting where you are, how you're the spiritual growth. That kind of thing. So yeah. Okay, guys, well, we've got a few more minutes. Going back to the article, because I feel it's such a relevant article today, yesterday, and for tomorrow. But I feel we still need to do more with these small changes. The article goes on to talk about less shopping, less online, the packaging, the plastic, the oceans. This article's amazing. Is there anything else you'd like to add and share with the audience? Andy's thinking.
I'm thinking, but nothing is coming.
Nothing's coming.
While you guys are thinking, I'll say something. Okay. So Daji also talks about yamas and niyamas, right? Especially yamas in the article, which is about, what are the yamas in yoga? The yamas are the things that, they're all the, like, if you like, the unwanted habits and things that we're trying to get rid of. And so the first one is violence or anger or, when we have an emotional outburst. So the very, very first yama is what's called ahimsa or nonviolence. And what is that? It's about, it's about everything. It's about, do I create ripples whenever I go? Or am I so balanced in myself that wherever I go, I'm not creating any disturbance? Do I have a zero footprint wherever I go as a human being? On my loved ones, on strangers in the bus, on the environment, everything. So that's like starting point, and that's a huge one. And for the environment, if none of us had any footprint, there wouldn't be an environmental crisis. We wouldn't have climate change and mass extinction and everything else. So yoga has a lot to say about this stuff. And then there's a whole lot of other things in the yamas about greed and about how we deal with resources. Are we moderate? Even when it comes down to something as simple as eating, do we only eat what we need in any moment? Or are we eating for pleasure? Are we eating for gluttony? Are we eating for, there are so many, for emotional reasons. There are so many different ways that this pans out in our life. And of course, if you go into it too deeply, you just look and go, oh my God, I can't get any of this done, because it's such an overwhelming thing. But it's worth exploring what he talks about with the yamas, because these are our, if you like, these are our way markers to say, how am I going with my own environmental footprint? If I can look at the 5 yamas every day and say, how am I going with this one, this one, this one, we'll start to work on becoming the human beings that aren't putting thought pollution out into the world. So it's a pretty strong point that he talks about in the article.
Yeah, but it's a great place to start, right, Elizabeth? That's what you're saying, yeah.
Yeah, it is. I mean, even just this one, if you took some time during the week to say, okay, let me look at my behavior. And when I talk about nonviolence, I'm not talking about not hitting people or doing stuff like that. It could be something as simple as just getting really angry with myself for making a mistake, or feeling really bad about something like that, like, I didn't do well enough, or and get really giving myself a hard time. That's also violence. Or getting frustrated and impatient with another person because they're not understanding, or for example, with all the politics that's going on at the moment, or even the Ukraine war, getting angry about what's happening. That's also violent. That's contributing to the situation. So what do I do with something like the Ukraine war? How on earth can I have a reaction to that that's nonviolent? How can I respond to something so terrible that's happening in the world? It's all that sort of stuff. And when you start looking into it, you think, okay, there's work to do. I need to look at this, and I need to start to think about bringing goodness into the world and bringing change on that level. I mean, they're massive issues, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely. And, Elizabeth, again, quickly, there was a lady from Ukraine, who's obviously, they're suffering, and she goes, stop sending toys, and all we need is bread. And when you listen to that, you think, okay, right, we really need to understand what people are saying, but we can only do that if we can understand ourselves, where we are. Gosh, it's getting, I don't like saying goodbye. A few more minutes, okay? The team are going to tell me. A few more minutes. Andy, would you like to say anything?
Well, it's kind of funny, actually. Well, it's bad to say funny in this context, because you were talking about the Ukraine war, and all I was thinking about was I have a family member who I think complains quite a bit, and then that kind of gets stuck in my head, and I kind of feel resistance towards that. So I think that's maybe what I need to work on the most, is just not adding like secondary reactions on top of my own uncontrollable reactions.
Yeah. And that's a huge one for all of us. You know, I mean, you can look at big issues, but then when you get down to day to day, something like that, just not getting irritated by a family member or a neighbor or, you know, a shopkeeper or something, they're the big ones.
Yeah.
And do you know what? You saying that, guys, it actually happens without you even knowing. Just had a thought. Yeah, I was like, oh, the neighbours, she didn't put her bin out. Da-da-da. You know, that's thought pollution, right? That's thought. Yeah, got you. Okay, we really do need to work on ourselves. It's the simple things. Yeah, gosh. Martha, would you like to add anything before we go?
Yeah, I can just say like trying to be kind to ourselves and the environment, of course. And what helps me sometimes is reminding myself to not have expectations. And it somehow smooths the way to go. I can just suggest that to try.
Yeah, so it's a big one.
Another big one, yeah. Well, maybe chapter 2 when we do the next coffee talk, Martha. So listen, guys, I want you to go and enjoy your day. Thank you for your Sunday time. And I'm sure Elizabeth's going to see our Daji.
Yeah.
Say hello. Say hello to Saib. Sorry, I get all because, you know, you're in an amazing place. Okay, that's my thought there. Thank you. I'll leave you to say your goodbyes.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you for your time, Elizabeth.
It was a real pleasure. Nice to meet you guys also, Andy and Martha.
You too.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.